Now we're working. All right, now we've got to sew these guys together. We're going to sew each strip together end to end, 1.5 inch ends. So you're going to end up with a ribbon 1.5 inches wide by however long the total length of all of these is. There's 6 pieces and each of them is about 3 feet long, so we're talking about 18 feet. So we're going to have 1.5 inches by 18 feet. And I've got these things sitting in my lap, or they will be sitting in my lap, with the pretty side up, so that when I pick them up, I'll know what to do with them. Hopefully. Okay. Just making sure there's no twists, no surprises. This first piece is pieced because it wasn't long enough, so that was twisted. Alright. I just started this video. I've got a dog that's roaming around, so we might be getting interrupted again. Okay. First 2 pieces, pick them up, put them together, pretty sides together. Line up the edges, make sure they're even, and start sewing. Now I think I forgot to tell you before about these starter pieces. I've done this video a few times, had a few problems with it, so I can't remember what's on the video already and what isn't. So I'm using a starter piece to start this, because if you do these pieces one by one and cut them apart, you waste at least 2-3 inches of thread every single cut. If you're not really wasting it at the end, you're wasting it at the beginning. And believe it or not, when you're doing a project like this, it adds up. It really does. When I made the quilt for my granddaughter, I figured that I threw away about a half a spool of thread before I was halfway through the project, because I was just cutting it off. And then I caught on to this trick, and I said, wow, the last half of the project I used exactly 1/2 of the thread that I used the first time. So it's well worth it, because thread isn't cheap anymore. Anyway, so we're going to sew this together. Use a 1/4 inch seam and pretty sides together. And I'm going to back stitch the beginning and the end of each row, because as you're doing these, working with these, the I'm lost for words again. You're pulling on them all the time, and if you don't lock the stitches, these things come apart. I mean, they did on me, and I was really gentle with them, or at least I thought I was. So to avoid that, it's just easier to do a back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Also, this little trick of using the starter fabric is good, because you don't have to worry about your thread tangling up when you're starting on these small pieces, because which they will do, because there's nothing to grab, so they kind of bunch up at the end until they grab hold. The thing is already set in motion, so it just wants to go, and that's it. You push the pedal or push the button, it moves. Alright, so I've got 2 pieces together. I'm going to do this chain style. I'm not going to take this piece off from the machine. I'm placing, if you can see this is the strip here. I'll show you how I'm doing this. I'm just pulling it out, okay, and letting this fall here because it's not in my way. And I'm keeping it the way it was. It's laying with the bad side up. To sew, I have to flip it over and put the right side up. So now I'm going to take my next piece, which is this pretty flower piece, and I'm going to put that down, pretty side together, and sew another 1/4 inch seam. Again, back stitching at the beginning and at the end. I'm going to push it up close to my pressure foot. When I turn on the machine on my machine, the foot will grab it and pull it towards the needle. Here we go. And I forgot to pack space. Alright. Doing the same process. Bad side is up here. I've picked up the new side. I can see the end of my material. There's no twists. I'm putting it down face up, attaching this next piece of material, pretty sides together. Putting them to the machine and sewing. Okay, add 2 more pieces here. Don't need a lot of strips for the purpose of the tutorial. This is time consuming enough for people watching. Alright, here's my doggy print, or my bow wow print. Pretty sides together. Back stitch. Back stitch again. Pretty side up, not twisted. Last piece. This piece, somewhere along the line, I've told Tina that you don't have to use new material. You can use used material. And this material came from a dress that I used to wear like 20 years ago. I loved the dress, and it had a stain on it that I just couldn't get rid of, and I couldn't part with it, so I disassembled it and saved all the pieces. And I've used it several times, and this is the last piece of it, so it's going on my little sewing projects here, so I can think of them, remember my dress and the fun I had wearing it. That was many years ago. And remember, back stitch again. Okay, so that was my last strip. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another end piece here. To save time, I'll cut this one off to set my needle for the next step. And actually, when you're sewing, just regular sewing, it's a good idea to do this. Then you don't have to worry about your threads getting tangled or whatever. They're secured, and your needle's down, and it's protected. Alright, so here's my pieces strung together. Now all I have to do is just clip these pieces, and we're on to phase 2 of this jelly roll. Snip off my starter piece so I can use it next time around, and snip these pieces. Okay. Now, this should all be ironed. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you this or not. But you have to iron the seams so that they're flat. And it really doesn't make any difference which way they go, just as long as they're flat and you don't have any bumps in them. There's a piece that I did have to piece here because it was not long enough. So those are diagonals. Those have to be iron flat. And it's a good thing to iron the whole entire strip just so that there's no wrinkles in it. These were scraps and they've just been laying around getting wrinkled and crinkled and you name it. So, paste to iron them a little bit. Now, next phase is to locate your two ends. There's another piece that was joined because it wasn't long enough. And you're gonna put them right sides together and sew them. This time you're gonna sew down the length of the strips. So you're gonna end up with a strip that is a piece of material then that is going to be about 2.5 inches wide by, let me say, 5.5 feet long. I'm going to figure I've got 4.5 feet long. I'm going to figure I have 9 feet of whatchamacallit here, of ribbon. And like I said, what did I say? We got to put these right sides together, and I think I might have already screwed up. Let's make sure we've got all right sides here. This is probably the easiest way to do it. And then to gather them together on my lap to sew them. When you're working with a full jelly roll, this ends up to be quite a lot of lengthy strip here. And unfortunately, there's really no way to cut back on it, because if you're the traditional jelly roll quilt just takes one whole jelly roll and you sew the pieces end to end for the whole roll, and then you start you use up all the pieces. I suppose you could split them half and half, but normally there aren't duplicate pieces in the jelly roll, so you're going to end up with you would end up with an odd pattern. I think, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think it would show up. So I would just bear with it and do it this way. I know my pieces aren't twisted, so I'm just going to let them drop in my lap again. Pull them up again. This time a little bit longer, so they're not on the floor in cat material. Cats love to play with this stuff. Okay. Here we go. Our starter piece in. I'm going to put this up to the, I'll make sure my ends match, and put this up to the foot and start sewing my 1/4 inch seam. Again, back stitch at the beginning and the end of each row. Now this is going to take a while because it's just going to, and I stop every 8 to 12 inches to make sure my material is lined up right. I have a little problem here that might be an issue on the next row. Hopefully I can compensate for it. If not, this is a trial piece, and like I said, these were scraps, so they might not all be 1.5 inches. I eyeballed them to see if they were. They're all pretty close. But let's see what happens. You can do varied widths too. But you'd have to make sure that you worked into them easily. Actually, I think you'd have to stop, cut the piece, and if, say, you were going from a 1.5 inch to a 3/4 inch, because you know it would make a pretty row. Have a 3/4 inch strip that you would cut in and put in its place at that point in time, and then go back to your original piece. I'll have to try that. That sounds, I think that would look pretty, make a pretty interesting pattern. That's the problem. I work on these things, and while I'm working on one, something else is popping into my head saying, oh, boy, I bet you could do this. And the result is something else is born. Just a few more minutes here. It gets shorter as we go here, because we're going to double this up again, and this is going to be half the length that we're going to be sewing, if that's any comfort to watching. And I haven't got my sewing machine going very fast because I want to stick to the 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I have a problem doing that if I'm speeding, so it's easier for me to just keep it slow and easy, and I don't have any problems. Time to readjust my fabric, get going again. I shouldn't say anything. I can't believe that everybody's been quiet this long. I should be stopping this thing because somebody's barking or the telephone's ringing or something. Something's just not going right tonight. Hopefully this will go right. Aha, no twists. That's a good sign. got my bracelet on just because I'm not using any pins, so I don't need it. But I figured I'd show it off. Oh, I'll have to say I lied before. I said that at the beginning of the video. I said I was going to have to put the camera in back of me. I did put the camera in back of me, and the recording came out horrible because the microphone was in back of me. I didn't stop to think about that. So I'm redoing my project all over again for this video, and I set it up in front of me. It took my husband's smartness to tell me what I did wrong. I didn't even think about the microphone being in the back of me. But that's normal for me because he's hard of hearing and I'm always talking away from him and he's always yelling at me that he can't hear me. So, anyway. And I'm not a person to yell. I hate yelling. It gives me a headache. It puts me in a bad mood. Okay. My strip is done. I put my other starter stitch here. So my threads are in order. I have to iron this piece. Well, before I iron it, I have to cut this loop so I can open this piece up. And I'm just going to cut it through the stitch up to the stitching. I'm not cutting the end off, I'm just cutting the fold. Alright. There. So now I'll iron this. If you can see the table, you'll see how the fabric changes color. And well, like here we have two colors. I'm trying to see what this stupid thing is. At the beginning, you have two the same color together, but they're in splits, okay? And it's going to split again on down the road. We have 6 fabric patterns, so there should be 3 splits. My third print is coming up now. The doggy print is coming up. That made the outside. I was hoping it would be on the inside. Oh, it's taking longer than I expected. Must be getting tired. I'm not spending a lot of time ironing this. What I did forget to do was to set the seam. Setting the seam is supposed to help eliminate the fabric from stretching when you press the seams flat like I'm doing now. And you don't know if it's an old wives' tale or if it really does work, but I guess we'll find out. Another trick that I did learn is that when you're stitching rows like this together is to switch which end you start at, because if you can start at the same end all the time, your fabric tends to curve in that direction. So by flipping the ends every time you sew, you're counteracting that default, so to speak, and you don't have wavy lines. So I can't remember which one we started with. I think this was my top. Up here. Oops, I got a bad iron there. Got a crease. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to take our pieces and bring the other end up to the top again, making sure we haven't twisted it. Put pretty sides together, and we're going to sew down the length of this one. Now this time we should only be sewing about 4.5 feet instead of 9. It's going to get shorter every time we do this. Fabric decided to flip over. Okay. Let's turn the speed up on this. I think I can trust myself. So you already keep checking the bobbin to make sure that I don't run out of thread. I did that last project. I sewed the whole length of this thing down and didn't realize that I ran out of thread because my machine doesn't have an alarm that says you're out of bobbin thread. Okay, back stitch again. And an end piece. And cut it off. And clip our fold. And we're getting ready to start this all over again. But first we gotta iron everything. Now I think this is the second time I've done this with 6 strips, and I think my mistake is I should be using 7, because it seems like I always get to color together for too long of a span. Could be my imagination, but I can tell just by the way this ironed that they flipped over on the other side. But I'm not going to worry about it until the end. It sounds like somebody's knocking at the door. But all of the door keys are in the house. Okay, now we're going to do this again and put 4 together. Looks like we're going to do this 2 more times. Don't forget to back stitch at the beginning. And back stitch at the end. Back stitch and an end piece and snip snip. Again, cut the fold. Open her up. Oh, that's getting to look pretty. See? Isn't it pretty? And we're going to iron this again. I've got a narrow strip in here. Actually, a narrow section. But you know what? I don't care. It gives it character. I've learned, you know, you can try to be perfect, but who's perfect? And some of the times, some of the most beautiful things are imperfect. So I'll let it be imperfect. I'm not putting this in any quilting pageant contest. The only one that category would probably go under is a crazy quilt, because the lady that made it is crazy. Okay, last time, because I got a piece that's workable here when we get it to be this length. I could use it as a background material for something. Or cut it apart for my patterns for my next pincushion carrier. Again, back stitch the beginning and 1/4 inch to the end. And I screwed up. I forgot to make sure my lines fabric was even, so I might have to fake this and do another row, because I really don't feel like cutting it, tearing this apart. Like I said, it isn't bad to be imperfect. And yeah, we did miss it. It's one section that isn't sewn right. So let's just make this whole thing a little bit narrower. Now, here's my peanut. Come on. Come on up. I figured she'd be coming back. Okay, can I lay down? Here you go. Oh, she picked a bad time to come back. She's sitting on my ironing board. Alright. We've got some pieces of thread here from the edges that frayed that we're going to have to remove carefully. Okay. Oh, that looks pretty good. What do you think? I have to get it away from Peanut. I think it's a pretty pattern. Yep. So that's how you do a jelly roll. Now, I don't know what to do with this. I'll show you what I did with the last one. Like I said, I did this video before. The last one, the piece was wide enough, and the video didn't come out, or you would be seeing how I made this. I was really bummed. I ended up with this the last time, and I was going to use this as a hot plate. It's kind of quilted. I just did a flower petal in the center. And it's got 2 pieces of batting in it. I was hoping I could use this for ironing. And it's probably not a bad idea to use this for my small applique ironing. You don't really always need a huge ironing pad. I have this thing here, which I flip over. It's also a cutting board, and I don't really need it because I have a larger cutting board down underneath this that I can use that my sewing machine's on. But, you know, I could do this. I can make a cutting board out of the ironing board out of this if we wanted to. And I think I'm just gonna hold off on this piece right now and see how this video comes out, and maybe work on this for a project sometime later. I mean, there's 1,000 things I could think of doing it. For Valentine's Day, I could use it. Oh, that might be something to do. I could put a heart applique on the inside, the center, and I could use it as a centerpiece on my table. That'd be cute. It's red. It's got flowers. It's got my kids in it, the Bow Wows. That might be a very good idea. See, like I said, I'm always thinking. Okay, now we got Peanut here. And she's going to want to go with me. And I'm going to go to the other computer. So, I'm going to end this. Tina, thanks for watching. I hope you can figure out what I did. Love you, girlfriend.